Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Dental Handoff. I'm Dr. Kelly Tanner. Today, I have someone with me who has an amazing story and journey. Tam Patel. Tam, thank you so much for joining us today. You're a hygienist and you've broken into a different area. I cannot wait to hear more.
Yay, I'm so excited to be here. I feel like it's like full circle. I was like listening to you in the car and now I get to like talk to you live, which is really fun?
Oh, yay, yay. It's so cool when you know that you're impacting people. Because sometimes with podcasts and things, you just don't know, right? You can see the download, you can see that, but the impacting lives portion of it. So it's nice to hear that. And so Tam, we always start with the question, why hygiene? Did you choose it? Did it choose you?
Yeah, I love that question. So it kind of chose me. From a young age, I was always kind of interested in, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but like teeth. And I knew I wanted to do something in healthcare. Like healthcare totally called to me. But, I grew up there were well intentioned voices around, at home that kind of pushed me in a direction of dentistry. And so at the time, I didn't feel like I was confident enough to go into dentistry. So I thought, let's try dental hygiene. And then from dental hygiene, if I wanted to do something else or I could kind of see how that goes.
Hmm.
But once I got into dental hygiene school and started practicing, I was kind of hooked. Like I was like, this is what I want to do. So went to ETSU in Tennessee and yeah, I met some really cool people and then I just kind of became nomadic after that.
So was it everything you thought it was going to be? Were you changing lives how you thought you were going to be?
That's a really good question. No, it wasn't. Um in a good way. So it really I I was a little gun shy about kind of going in and working as a dental hygienist after graduating school. I felt a little intimidated by it because when you're in hygiene school, you're doing the boards, the written boards, the clinical boards, and you're hearing about how the job market. I graduated in 2003. So, like, hearing about how the job market kind of functions was a little intimidating for
Yeah.
me. But I was so lucky with like a lot of the dentists that worked with in private practice. They were fantastic mentors. Um, the very first office the first job as a dental hygienist was like so memorable. Like grew up in Tennessee, but I was like, I want to go to the big city. So I moved to
Okay.
Atlanta. This is the closest big city.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Moved to Atlanta, and then I was, like, looking for a dental hygiene job, and the first, um, uh, dentist that, wanted to take a chance on my resume was a pediatric dentist, and she was right in the middle of Atlanta, and I was 23, and I didn't have children. I didn't think I wanted children, so my friends I was that person who, like, we'd go to a restaurant, and I was like, "Where are the kids sitting? Because I wanna sit on the other side," you know?
Yes, I do. I know.
So, when I got this, interview for a pediatric dental office, I was like, "I think I'm gonna do this," and my friends were like, "You can't do that. Like, you cannot work
Who
on."
are you? Who are
Yeah,
you?
what's happened? But it was the best thing. I thought I would be in that role for like I was like, it's a way in. I could maybe do this for a year and then I'll find a general office. I ended up staying there for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really great place to be because it really taught me a lot about the patient's aspect, not just the human aspect of patients, but just in general being patient with patients.
Mm.
And really, the dialogue between parents and the clinician is very different.
Yeah, oh,
And
yeah.
so it taught me a lot about being able to um, educate on a totally different level. And the dentist I work with was also just this fantastic business owner. And so I was able to learn a lot about how she kind of did things clinically, but then that kind of helped pique my interest in the business side.
Okay.
And then a lot of her dental assistants were, I mean, I still remember them. They were very nurturing. They were older women. And so they like kind of took me under their wing and they were like, they would kind of laugh at all my dating stories and like,
Oh, yeah.
I was like the
They lived
younger
through
one.
you. Yeah, they lived
Yeah.
vicariously through you is what they usually would say.
Right? Yeah, that's totally true, and now at my age, I'm 45 now, I totally get it, I would do the same thing, but, um, yeah, it was fantastic. The most memorable part of this is the doctor that I worked for with that first job, she called me into her office 3 years in and was like, "Tam, you're 26 years old." And I was like, "Uh-huh." And she was like, "And I see that you have a lot of potential as a dental hygienist, and you're learning a lot. And, you come in and you tell us these stories about how you wanna meet somebody and you wanna, like, live your life." And she's like, "You need to go out there and do something in general dentistry. So I wanna connect you with a doctor that I know in Chicago." And I just kinda looked at her and I was like, "Are you firing me? Like, what's happening?" But she was like, "No, I'm not firing you, but I see that there's potential in you, and you need to go out there and see what else you can do." And
Good.
she said, "This opportunity is great, and you're mobile, and you can go and do this." And so I totally took a chance and did it. I moved to Chicago, worked for this cosmetic dentist. We had 2 operatories in this, like, tiny little office off Michigan Avenue,
Wow.
and, he was a really good, cosmetic dentist, but because we only had 2 operatories we worked out of, it I really learned how to be efficient
Yeah,
and keep that patient care piece and help build a dental hygiene, essentially kind of a dental hygiene, I don't want to say machine, but essentially like clients and patients coming in.
yeah.
And doing that really kind of helped me see that there were other parts of dentistry that I think I could really like help coach on. And so that essentially is almost like the clinical uh, kind of the why for dental hygiene. It
Yeah.
took me on this long path.
Well, that's so wild that your existing doc would be like, "Hey, I mean, not that they would see potential in you, but to link out to
Yeah,
someone else just
and
to"
random.
right, so
Yeah.
random because you're happy, you're doing your thing, but
Mhm.
and I f every good story, I feel like, that where that next step up is because a person saw something in you.
Absolutely.
Every good story, and sometimes it doesn't, like, come out right away, but you
Yeah.
remember, "So and so thought I could do that. Can I do that?" And it's that seed that was planted. So you're learning about the business aspect, you're learning about efficiency, you're learning how you're growing. Where did you go next? Because I know you went into the
Yeah.
DSO space and now you're into skincare
Yeah,
and a
totally
lot
different.
of things.
Totally different. So, when I was in Chicago, I got to meet a lot of interesting people doing interesting work, within healthcare, and that kind of got me passionate about the business side of healthcare because I thought, I'm empathetic. I understand the patient care. I do think that there needs to be more compassion when we're talking to patients. Because a lot of dentists will say, "Well, my patients aren't coming back." Recall is really hard, and I think sometimes it's a lack of connection you
Yes.
know? And so I thought, well, maybe I can kind of help coach this. So I went to grad school. I thought my only way into the DSO space was getting a master's degree, which is not. I found out later, but
Right.
I decided to get my MBA. And once I had my MBA, I was in Dallas at the time, and there was a smaller DSO called Dental One Partners.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so they gave me my first role, the DSO, and I ended up becoming like a regional clinical advisor. And so that helped me coach hygienists. So I worked with the operations management, but I worked solely with dentists and hygienists and really helped coach them on the empathetic, compassionate side of dental hygiene. And that essentially really helped grow um, those parts of the business.
Yes.
Um, because you and I know, like, when you get out of hygiene school, you're just kinda thrown to the wolves, and unless you have really good mentors, it's really hard to understand that concept, especially for a lot of dental hygienists. My first job, even just working other than retail, was as a hygienist, and it's a lot to think about staying on time and seeing the patient. And so after, being in the DSO space for 10 years and doing that, I just saw the need for I wanted to stay in healthcare, but I also have worked for many larger DSOs.
Mm.
And there was kind of a similar thread throughout all of the DSOs, which was, for somebody with a background in dental hygiene, it's really hard to move past coaching hygiene and like really being pigeonholed within hygiene. And at the time, I didn't think I was strong enough to really create something within that space.
Mm.
And I was always kind of interested in something related to skincare. And I always wanted to do something that was entrepreneurial.
Okay.
And so I had a patient with a cleft lip. And I talked to this hygienist at the time. I was in this DSO space. I was talking to the hygienist at the time about the cleft lip patient. And the dental hygienist was a new hygienist and said, I feel really bad. This patient is, having some I connected with this patient. She comes in for her dental hygiene treatment every 6 months, but she really wants some help aesthetically
Mm.
with cleft lips. And I thought, wow, that's actually that I can see that, afterwards, there's things within the beauty space that wouldn't exist. So it took me on a rabbit hole of really trying to figure out what could help cleft lip patients, and permanent makeup kind of came too. And that's when I kind of thought about permanent makeup, getting into that. I learned how to do what's called lip blushing, which is essentially adding a tint to the lips
Mm.
using new school kind of tattoo process. And I thought, this is kind of wild. I could do some really cool things for clients, even within the cleft lip area. And
Right.
so that's essentially how I got into this. Was I would work on clients with cleft lips, and I would help restore the shape of their lips um, with permanent makeup. And that kind of
Wow.
started the ball rolling with, wow, I could really help with scars, and what else can these, techniques help do? And so that's when I decided to open up a little studio, and we've rebranded since. We started with a lip blush studio, and now we offer scars, stretch mark, and 3D areola tattooing for mastectomy patients.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So you went I have a few questions. I have a lot of questions. One of the things that you said was, and this is questioning mindset,
Yeah.
that you thought you had to have a master's to go work for a DSO.
Yeah.
Because I hear from hygienists all the time, um, what can I do with my degree? What can I do this? Do I need to go do this? Do I need and it's like, okay, you need to start with what interests you. What interests you? What lights you up? And when you're in that moment, what makes you feel whole, right? And
Yeah.
so, what did you realize about when did you realize that you didn't need a master's to go to a DSO?
That's so funny. It was after I was, hired in the DSO space. When I became a clinical advisor, I thought, I really didn't need this master's in order to do this because what I'm doing is really coaching hygienists on sometimes some basic questions, which we can't blame hygienists for it. You take a class for like 60 days and you're kind of, there's a lot of pressure to really remember and recall all that information that you learned in hygiene school. And so when I started coaching hygienists and really listening to a lot of the questions that they had, um, the questions always went towards patient care. How can I get my patients to continue coming back? Or how can I help support the dentist more? Like when patients, a lot of hygienists would say, patients will ask me questions about
Yeah,
their dental work.
yeah,
And a lot of that was maybe intimidation for dentists. That's when I realized, this is really about empathy and emotional intelligence and, putting all the skills that we learned clinically, and really mentoring somebody fresh out of school. That's when it hit me that, a master's in business administration is great when you're learning finance and maybe accounting and that part of the business. But most hygienists don't really need to do that. And maybe some of them don't want to. And that's when, really capitalizing. I think I tell hygienists a lot that capitalizing on your empathy, compassionate, patient centric care can really help take you to, the next level.
yeah. I think a question that just kind of came to me is at the center of that, ask yourself, how do I want to help? How do I want to improve what is right in front of me? Because that's how you came in to your aha moment, right?
Totally.
Because it started your brain turning. Yes, you like the business aspect of it, but I firmly believe that hygienists are entrepreneur entrepreneurs because
Yeah.
we love the people, we love the connection, we want to help, we want to serve, we want to help solve a problem, want to be the healer, all the things.
Yes.
But I think when you ask yourself that question of how do I want to help my patients? And
Mhm.
that drives that central sort of thought process, that thoughtware process to then think outside of what you're doing because maybe your answer is I want to do something different, or I want more time with oral hygiene instruction, or I want longer appointment times. Well, how do you get that? Right. And then
Yeah.
how do you take action? Well, you need to study more on what it is, what the difference is that you want to make with your patients.
Yeah,
Educate the
that's
doctor.
yes, that's so true. You're so right with the thread of like dental hygienists, like are entrepreneurial. Because being an entrepreneur, what I realize is we're just professional problem solvers. At the end
Mhm.
of the
Yeah.
day, we're solving problems, and I feel like at least in the dental space, absolutely dentists are problem solvers, and their craft is key to the office. But dental hygienists are also problem solvers, and dental assistants are also problem solvers in different capacities. And so I do think that sometimes as hygienists, we may feel a little gun shy about pulling the trigger and doing something that may feel a little out of sorts. But we are courageous inside because the things that we work on with patients is a courageous thing.
Yeah.
And
It's
sometimes we just need that push. We need that, like, hype we need the hype women behind us.
yes, we do. We need the mentors. We need the folks to say, what do you think about this? Do you think this is something that was always inside of me? Because what's interesting is I had my first retreat. I had a dental hygiene retreat a few weeks ago, at the top of May, and I had one of my former classmates in there and who attended
Good.
my retreat, and she said that she spoke to another one of my classmates, and they said, "We always knew that Kelly would do something different." And I'm like, "We were just trying to make it through hygiene school at the time, right?" I was just like, I feel like I was in survival mode, but
Totally.
it's something that someone else sees in you, but you have to identify that aha moment, just like you saw the cleft lip patients, you wanted to make that difference. How can you apply what your love is, that difference you want to make in people's lives, connect it to something that could add on or maybe even be separate from? And there, I think a lot of regulated dentistry feels a little bit of threat behind this.
Yes.
But, and though, this is who they have. become evolve to be. You know, they're the dentists, they're specialists, they're things, but if they embrace who we can be in the practice, and
Yes.
we embrace who we can be in the practice. And Tam, you saw that in the DSO space. I've been in the DSO space. I consult DSOs. I've worked in a DSO.
Yeah.
So we saw how DSOs leverage capabilities of everyone. And that's why they put those mentors in there, because that gives you that leverage for everyone to do more and to rise all ships. And
Yeah. It's
right?
so true. It's so true. And like being able to ride that wave is so much easier when you have some support and some people that are kind of cheering you along the way. For sure. And like when you find common threads, what I found is like really tapping into my curiosity
Mm,
really helped find that like, "Ooh, what do I wanna do now?" You
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And sometimes that curiosity, like, for whatever reason, can just be, like, blocked because sometimes, I will say, unfortunately, sometimes with our role as hygienists, things can get a little monotonous and siloed, and so being able to, like, tap into that curiosity can, I think, release a lot of info, and things that may come to top of mind for
Yeah.
hygiene.
It puts you in flow of
Oh,
that centered work. So you went, I feel like I want to ask you 100 more questions. You went from, you went to owning your own business. So what, right? So what were some things that you look back and you would tell a hygienist or anyone maybe in your position,
mhm.
once you have that idea, what are some things that you should know?
The biggest piece of advice that I have is to not be scared to reach out.
Mm,
It doesn't hurt to ask whoever you may, find. I would go on LinkedIn and I would just send messages to anybody who I felt I was called to
mm,
really be able to ask questions. Again, kind of tapping into that curiosity and taking the chance and sending an email or a note. Because what I realized is most people will help you if you just ask.
yes, you're so right.
You
Yes, that's a
know?
good one.
Yeah, most people will help if you ask, and and a lot of times we get kinda caught up with, like we kinda create this narrative in our head. Yeah, like, will they really respond? They're probably too busy. But just take the chance and do it because out of 10 people you may ask, you may only get 1 or 2 responses, but those responses will take you on a wild journey to be able to really uncover some things that may be of interest to you. That would be the thing that I wish somebody had told me.
Yeah, to not be afraid to ask.
Yeah, because what took me 10 years to build could have maybe taken me 5 years.
Or 2.
Had I asked.
When you
Oh, yeah. Yeah, exactly, or 2. I could have been talking to you, like, 5, 6 years ago, Kelly.
I know. Here we are though. Time
I
is
know.
right, but that's great advice. So then when opening, because people will say, "I don't even know how to own my own business. I don't,"
Mhm.
and then I wanna get into, what are some things that you would say when you're opening your own business that you would advise? And then tell us what you're doing day to day. What does your day to day look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I would say for the first question, um, really stepping outside of what you think owning a business is can sound really overwhelming.
Mhm.
When you think of, "Oh, I gotta get a space and I gotta," how much investment does it take and all of these things. The really beautiful part of being in this world right now is essentially technology.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of things that can be negative about it, but there's a lot of positive right now. And so really brick and mortar and those things don't matter anymore. If you have social media or to be able to kind of use AI in a way to figure out how you can have your own business, and really what you need is understanding how your state sees a business and really kind of taking some time to rest can really reset your mind into really figuring out what you may want to do. Um, Forcing something never works,
Right.
but really being able to just take a breath, think about what you want to do, and then kind of going the route of using technology to start a business is a really effective and easy way to get your start, because what it takes is really confidence. When I started with the social media handle. That was it.
Wow.
And yeah, so I essentially did almost like in the tech world, they call it like a vapor test, where you're creating a handle and maybe even creating a sense of a business and seeing how many people are attracted to that. And it takes nothing but an Instagram handle or a Facebook handle to do that. And then you're really digging in and seeing if there's interest on that end, and you can really help that grow.
Yeah.
And, my day to day now is we are bringing more awareness in. So, like for the week, 2 to 3 times a week, I'm doing practice visits. I've been lucky to be able to partner with some of the top plastic surgeons in the area. And
Wow.
yeah, and really, talking to them about this is one thing that clinical dental hygiene helps with is really helping doctors understand that the language, the clinical language,
Hmm.
and talking to them about how, finishing that last mile for plastic surgeons with scars, I can help them and be an extension of them. So I do a lot of practice visits. I work on social media. I'm my own social media person. So, working on really bringing awareness in to the space. And then I see clients regularly. We're lucky to be able to see clients kind of all around the country. And so they've been able to see my work and they take a chance and fly in, and I do some work on them and then have them come back every 6 weeks. And we just kind of see what kind of improvement we can make to whatever scars they have. And not just surgical scars, but self-harm scars and trauma scars. And so it's really like a big therapy session.
Wow, which is kinda who we are as hygienists.
It totally is. It goes back full circle. It really does.
It's so crazy.
Yeah.
So you are, in offices, so you're working alongside of other offices. Do you have your own brick and mortar as well, where people are coming
I
in?
do. Yeah, I have my own studio. We're located in Solana Beach, and it's a small little studio that we see one client, every hour. And I'm kind of the artist. We're a small little mighty group, and clients will come in. We have our little powwow session, do a little scar treatment, and then that's basically it.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and now, my job, what I see is I want to work on clients, but every client that comes in doesn't realize that this is something that's possible. And so
Mhm.
right now my goal is, and what I've been working on recently is really just bringing more awareness
Yeah.
um about this.
That makes sense because that's gonna inform everyone about how you can support them and get them asking different questions of themselves and understand what is possible
Yeah,
for their next step of their journey, their healing, their because it's that psychological healing as well that you're
exactly.
providing. It's physical in nature, but it's psychological.
Yes. It's really nice when you get these testimonials and reviews or little love notes, that from clients who say, I can now look at my arm. Like I had a client, actually, I'm going to see her today, and she says, I haven't worn sleeveless in 10 years because I had a tumor removed from the back of my arm and I have this scar. And she says, I just don't wear sleeveless. And, we're in San Diego in Southern California. It's really hard to like be covered all the time. And so we did a first session, and she sent a little love note saying, I never thought that I could actually be able to show my arms, and she's like, "The amount of healing from that is amazing." And, that is where, like, as a hygienist, when you get those little love notes from patients when you're a hygienist, it just fills your cup, and so it's a similar thing.
Yeah. Tam, that's just thank you for the services that you're offering. That's amazing.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I love that I can bring some awareness to this on your platform, and that you're progressive to think how different we can all do things. We were all kind of connected through the dental hygiene space, but
Yeah.
the possibilities are endless.
There everything is possible. Everything is
Totally.
possible. You can do anything you want. It's how you think of yourself, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's it. That's
That's
it.
so true.
Well, Tam, thank you again from the bottom of my heart for your time today and for sharing your story and your words of advice and wisdom. And for anyone who wants to get in touch with Tam, if you have other questions, her contact information's in the show notes. You can reach out to her. Sounds like she's got a hopping IG channel over there. You can DM her over there too. So, I always ask the favor to each of you go on over to Apple Podcasts to give a 5-star rating to Apple because Apple's the one that matters. And if you're watching this on YouTube, go ahead and press the like button right now so the algorithm recommends this to other people who may also like it as well. And go ahead and subscribe so when a new episode drops, you are informed. Thank you so much, Tam, again for your time today.
Thank you so much. I really had so much fun connecting.
I know I want to keep talking to you. But for
Anytime.
thank you guys for all the lives that you touch. We will see you again soon and be well, my friends. Take care.